Dear listeners, we're back with a new story. Get ready for cheating, revenge, and wild relationship drama. The plane landed earlier than expected, and I was glad to be home ahead of schedule. I had texted Sarah when I boarded, letting her know I'd be back by morning, but now, with the surprise of an early flight, I thought about grabbing her favorite takeout, maybe rekindling a bit of the spark that had felt dim lately. We'd been distant, sure, but I had convinced myself it was just the strain of work, the grind of life. I missed her, and I thought she missed me too. Walking up the driveway, I noticed something off. The living room light was on, but the house was too quiet. No TV, no music, just an uncomfortable stillness. I left my suitcase by the door and headed upstairs, my footsteps echoing in the silence. Then, I heard it. Laughter, light and familiar, but not mine. My heart thudded in my chest as I walked toward the bedroom, each step heavier than the last. I stopped outside the door, my hand hovering over the knob. The laughter again, followed by a whisper I couldn't quite make out. I pushed the door open. The world seemed to slow down as the scene in front of me unfolded. Sarah, my wife, my Sarah, was tangled in the sheets with someone else. Not just anyone. Mike. Her childhood friend, the one I had never worried about. The one who had been a constant presence in our lives, laughing at dinners, coming over for barbecues, the one she always called like a brother. Now, his arm was draped across her bare back, their bodies still pressed together, both of them frozen as they realized I was standing in the doorway. James. Sarah's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. She scrambled to pull the sheet around her, panic in her eyes. I can explain. Explain. I said, my voice barely steady. Explain what, Sarah? That you've been screwing Mike. In our bed, Mike, wide-eyed, sat up, stammering, James, listen, man, this isn't what it looks like. I couldn't help it, I laughed. A short, bitter sound that filled the room. Not what it looks like. So, I'm not standing here, watching my wife with you in bed. Tell me, Mike, what exactly does this look like? He opened his mouth but had nothing to say. Of course, he didn't. There was nothing to say. The air in the room was thick with the weight of betrayal, like a suffocating cloud that pressed down on me. My hands clenched into fists at my sides, my nails digging into my palms, grounding me in the moment when everything else felt like it was slipping away. James, I'm so sorry, Sarah's voice cracked, tears welling up in her eyes as she clutched the sheet to her chest. I didn't mean for this to happen. I was confused, I was lonely. I cut her off, the word hanging between us like a weapon. You were lonely, so you thought the best solution was to sleep with him? I pointed at Mike, who still sat in silence, a pathetic look of shame on his face. How long has this been going on? James, please, Sarah whispered, tears now streaming down her face. It was a mistake, I swear. It just happened. I felt something snap inside me. It just happened. That's your excuse. This wasn't a one-time thing, was it, Sarah? Tell me the truth. Her lips trembled, and for a brief moment, I thought she might lie again. But then her shoulders slumped, and the truth fell out of her, heavy and bitter. It's been a few months. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stumbled back, the room spinning as I tried to comprehend what she had just said. The woman I had built my life with had been lying to me for months, carrying on this affair right under my nose. And I was just supposed to never find out. My voice was shaking, rage clawing at my throat. You were going to let this go on forever, weren't you? You were going to keep lying to me. No, she sobbed, shaking her head. I wanted to stop. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. Mike finally found his voice. James, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what I was thinking. No, I cut him off, my eyes locking onto him, filled with a fury I had never known. You don't get to talk. You don't get to say anything. He flinched, shrinking back like the coward he was. He was supposed to be my friend, someone I trusted. But now, looking at him, I only saw a man who had ruined everything. I want you both out of my house, I said, my voice dangerously low. Right now. James, wait, Sarah reached for me, but I stepped back, avoiding her touch like it was poison. Out. I couldn't bear to look at her anymore. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe, the weight of everything crushing down on me. Both of you. Get out. The room went quiet again, except for the sound of Sarah's quiet sobs and Mike's hurried movement as he gathered his clothes. I didn't watch them leave. I couldn't. The moment the door clicked shut behind them, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. The room felt empty and suffocating all at once, as if everything I had known, everything I had trusted, had been ripped away in a matter of minutes. I stood there, staring at the bed where I had slept for years, the bed where I had trusted Sarah. Now, it felt like a stranger's bed, a symbol of everything that had been broken. I wanted to scream, to break something, but all I could do was stand there, hollow and numb. In that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was about everything I had believed, everything I had built with her, crumbling right in front of me. And the worst part was, I didn't know where to begin picking up the pieces. The initial shock of Sarah's betrayal had morphed into something sharper and more visceral. Days passed like a blur of anger and confusion, but amidst the emotional chaos, I knew I had to take action. Sitting at my desk, surrounded by the detritus of our life together, photos, receipts, shared dreams, each piece of evidence felt like a dagger to my heart. But I couldn't dwell on the pain. I had to focus. After a sleepless night spent tossing and turning, I called a lawyer, a decision that felt like both a relief and a punishment. I needed someone to help me navigate this storm. James, I understand this is a difficult time, Rachel, my lawyer, said, her voice calm yet firm over the phone. But we need to get moving if you want to secure your interests. I can't believe she would do this to me, I said, pacing my office as I gripped the phone tightly. I thought we had a solid marriage. Many people do, until they don't, Rachel replied. Let's focus on gathering evidence for your case. Any texts, photos, or documents that might help us. We need to demonstrate that her actions affect your marriage. I hung up, staring out the window, watching the world go by. People walked their dogs, kids played, and life continued unabated outside my little bubble of despair. I knew I had to start digging, not just for the sake of the divorce but for my own sense of justice. That evening, I rifled through drawers, searching for anything that might indicate Sarah's infidelity. I found old receipts, travel documents, and even a few items I had forgotten about, like a birthday card from Mike tucked away in her nightstand. Each find deepened my resolve. I was no longer the victim, I was a man on a mission. As the days turned into a week, I continued to compile evidence, taking notes and screenshots of Sarah's social media activity, tracking Mike's movements whenever I could. The adrenaline rush felt empowering. I could almost hear the clock ticking down to the moment I would confront her properly, not in anger, but with a cool, collected strategy. One night, I received a message from Rachel. James, we should meet to discuss your case. I have some leads regarding Sarah's recent activities. Sure, I'll be there, I replied, my heart racing at the thought of taking another step toward finalizing the divorce. When I arrived at Rachel's office, she greeted me with a nod. Thanks for coming. I think you'll want to hear this. What did you find? I asked, taking a seat. Sarah has been in contact with a travel agency, Rachel said, leaning forward, her fingers steepled. She's looking to book tickets under a different name. I suspect she's planning to leave town, possibly to evade the legal consequences of the divorce. I felt a surge of anger. She thinks she can just run away from this. After everything she's done, it appears so, Rachel replied. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to act quickly. If she's truly planning to leave, we need to confront her before she gets the chance. I clenched my jaw, my mind racing with the implications. Where is she going? Currently, it looks like she's booked a bus ticket for tomorrow night. We can't let her slip away, James. You have to confront her. I nodded, determination surging within me. I will. She needs to face what she's done. As I left the office, I felt a strange mix of dread and exhilaration. I couldn't let her evade accountability. No more hiding from the truth, no more running. That evening, I prepped myself mentally for the confrontation. I went through what I wanted to say, steeling myself against her inevitable tears and excuses. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. I wanted her to understand the gravity of her actions. Later that night, I sat at home, waiting for the clock to tick down to the moment I would head to the bus station. My phone buzzed with messages, reminders from my work that seemed trivial now. The only thing that mattered was Sarah and her impending escape. Just as I was about to leave, my phone buzzed again. It was a text from Sarah. Can we talk? I need to explain everything. I stared at the screen, fury boiling inside me. Explain. What could she possibly say that would justify this? I took a deep breath, typing back with deliberate calmness. No, Sarah. You don't get to run away from this. I know what you're planning, and I'm coming to find you. A few moments passed, and my phone buzzed again. James, please. Just let me explain. But I was already out the door, fueled by the sense of purpose that had replaced my pain. I drove to the bus station with a clear goal, to confront her, to force her to acknowledge the destruction she had caused, and to ensure she faced the consequences of her betrayal. As I parked and stepped out into the frigid night air, I could see the flickering lights of the bus station. My heart pounded with each step I took toward the entrance, determined to put an end to her escape plans. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation, travelers milling about, checking schedules, while the dull roar of conversations filled the air. And then, I spotted her, standing near the departure gate, a small suitcase by her side, looking lost and vulnerable. Sarah. I called out, my voice cutting through the noise. She turned, and for a moment, I saw hope flash in her eyes, quickly replaced by dread as she realized I had come for her. James, her voice was shaky. You shouldn't be here. Too late for that, I said, marching up to her. We need to talk. Please, she pleaded, tears brimming in her eyes. I didn't want it to end this way. Just give me a chance to explain. There's nothing left to explain, Sarah, I said, my voice firm. You made your choice. Now you need to face the consequences. But no, I interrupted, my patience wearing thin. You don't get to make excuses. You think you can just run away from this, but I won't let you. Not after what you've done. Her face crumpled, and she took a step closer, desperation etched across her features. James, I'm scared. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was lost, and Mike. Stop, I said, holding up a hand. You think I care about your excuses? You think I'll just let you walk away because you feel bad? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Let me make this clear, I will be filing for divorce. You will face every consequence for your actions, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you did. I could see the realization dawning in her eyes. This wasn't just about us anymore, it was about accountability, and I was done letting her escape it. James, she whispered, but I was already turning away. There was nothing more to say. I had made my choice, and now, I was ready to see it through. The fluorescent lights of the bus station cast an unforgiving glare over everything, illuminating the stark reality of our confrontation. I stood there, the air thick with tension, my heart pounding as I stared at Sarah. She looked so small and lost, a stark contrast to the woman I once thought I knew. The suitcase at her feet seemed to symbolize all the plans she had for escaping this mess she had created. James, please, she said again, desperation etched into her voice. I need you to understand. Understand what? I snapped, cutting her off. Understand that you've been lying to me for months. Understand that you betrayed our marriage with Mike. I shook my head in disbelief. What part of this do you think needs explaining? Her face crumpled, and she took a tentative step forward, her hands trembling. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was confused. I thought I could make things work with you while this was happening. Confused? I laughed bitterly, the sound echoing in the nearly empty station. Confused is not knowing what to order at a restaurant, Sarah. This was a conscious choice. You made a decision to be with him instead of coming to me. I pointed to her suitcase, filled with her intentions of leaving. You were planning to run away, weren't you? I was going to clear my head, she replied, her voice barely a whisper, eyes glistening with unshed tears. I thought maybe it was for the best. For the best? I spat, incredulous. You think abandoning everything we built together is for the best? You think leaving me to deal with this alone is the answer? I thought it would give you space to think, she pleaded, trying to reach for my arm, but I stepped back, dodging her touch as if it were fire. Space? You think you deserve to dictate how I process this? I could feel my composure slipping, rage rising with each passing second. You don't get to run away and expect me to sit here waiting for your grand return, Sarah. You've shattered this relationship, and now you want to leave? No, she pressed her lips together, her eyes darting around the station, as if searching for an escape route. I know I've made mistakes, but I want to fix this. I want to try to make things right. Fix it? After what you've done? You've destroyed my trust in you. How can I even look at you the same way? My voice trembled with the weight of my words, and I struggled to maintain my composure. You think this is something you can just apologize for and we move on? I deserve more than your half-hearted attempts to save what's left of our marriage. James, please, enough. I shouted, my voice reverberating off the walls. A couple of people waiting at the benches glanced over, surprised at the outburst, but I didn't care. You've made your choices, and now it's time to face them. You want to run away? Go ahead. But don't think I'll sit idly by while you pretend this isn't happening. At that moment, the overhead announcement crackled through the speakers, announcing the arrival of a bus bound for another city. My heart sank as I watched Sarah's face, a mixture of fear and guilt washing over her. I don't want to leave like this, she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't want to hurt you, James. I thought I could find a way to make things better. Then why didn't you come to me? I shot back. Why didn't you talk to me before running off to him? We could have worked through our issues together. You chose deceit instead of honesty. Because I was scared, she burst out, the tears finally falling freely down her cheeks. I didn't know how to tell you I was unhappy. I thought maybe I could find happiness somewhere else, but it was a mistake. A huge mistake. I felt a pang of sorrow for her, but it quickly twisted into anger again. You don't get to be the victim here, Sarah. You betrayed me in the worst possible way. You think you can just run away from this mess you made? I don't want to run, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I don't know what else to do. I don't want to lose you. Too late, I replied, the words feeling heavy in my throat. You already lost me the moment you chose him over me. A moment of silence stretched between us, both of us grappling with the weight of the reality before us. The station buzzed with the sound of travelers checking in and out, oblivious to the storm brewing in our little corner. James, she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. If you don't want me anymore, then what do you want? What will it take to make this right? I took a deep breath, my anger simmering down to something more controlled. What you need to realize, Sarah, is that you can't just fix this with words. You've shattered everything between us, and I don't even know if I can ever forgive you. She looked down at her suitcase, the hope fading from her eyes. So, what now? You're just going to let me leave? No, I said firmly. You're going to face the consequences of your actions, starting with the divorce. But it's up to you if you want to be part of the process or run away like a coward. The bus's engine roared to life outside, and I could see the headlights illuminating the darkening sky. I could feel her hesitation, the weight of my words pressing down on her. James, she started, but I raised my hand again. No more excuses, Sarah. No more lies. You have to decide if you want to confront what you've done or keep running. But I can't be a part of your escape. She stood there, frozen, tears streaming down her face, and I felt a flicker of something that almost resembled pity. But I shook it off. This wasn't about her anymore, it was about me reclaiming my life. Make your choice, I said, turning away. I'll be filing for divorce, whether you're here to face it or not. I took a step back, my heart heavy but resolute. As I walked away, I could feel her gaze on me, a mixture of regret and sorrow, but I wouldn't turn back. I had made my choice, and now it was time for her to make hers. The chill of the bus station lingered long after I had left, but it was nothing compared to the ice that had settled in my heart. I drove home with a sense of urgency mixed with a numbness that clouded my thoughts. I had confronted Sarah, but I still felt like there were pieces of the puzzle missing. I needed to know the full extent of her betrayal, not just the affair with Mike but the underlying motivations that had driven her to it. When I got home, I tossed my keys on the counter, the sound echoing in the empty house. I wandered into the living room, where memories of our life together lay scattered. Photos of vacations, birthday celebrations, and family gatherings taunted me from the walls. I had to push past the pain to find the truth. Sitting on the couch, I opened my laptop and began to dig deeper. I started by scrolling through Sarah's social media accounts, looking for clues, anything that could shed light on her emotional state leading up to her affair. Each scroll felt like an intrusion, but I needed answers. After an hour of searching, I stumbled upon a thread of messages between Sarah and Mike. My stomach churned as I read the flirty exchanges filled with inside jokes and intimate conversations that should have been ours. I miss our late-night talks. You always make me feel alive. The betrayal hit me anew. You know I'd do anything to see you smile. I slammed the laptop shut, frustration boiling over. I didn't just want to know about the affair, I wanted to understand how she had allowed herself to get to this point. I needed to confront her again, not just about her infidelity but about the depth of her deception. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Rachel. James, I need to talk to you about some new developments in your case. Can we meet? I typed back, sure. When and where? My mind raced with the possibility that maybe Rachel had uncovered something that would give me further insight into Sarah's actions. We agreed to meet at a nearby cafe, and I arrived early, my nerves taut as a bowstring. When Rachel walked in, she carried a file, a determined look on her face. Thanks for coming, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. I have some information regarding Sarah and Mike. What do you have? I asked, my heart racing. Rachel opened the folder and began flipping through documents. First, we found out that Mike has a history of infidelity. This isn't the first time he's been involved with a married woman. I felt a surge of anger. Of course. He's a predator, and she fell for it. But why? What did she see in him? According to some sources, he's been very charming, playing the role of the sympathetic friend, Rachel explained. He's manipulated her emotionally, making her feel as though she was lacking something in your marriage. Manipulated? How? Did he feed her insecurities? Exactly. It seems he may have taken advantage of her vulnerabilities. I also have copies of some of their correspondence, and it's clear that he was pushing her to break away from you. The implications hit me like a punch. So, he preyed on her doubts and fears, knowing she was already at a low point. Rachel nodded. Yes. And it looks like she was seeking comfort in someone who was not only familiar but also offered her the attention she craved. The deeper issue is that it wasn't just an affair, it was a calculated effort to manipulate her. I rubbed my temples, trying to process everything. So it wasn't just Sarah who failed, it was also him manipulating her feelings. But that doesn't excuse her actions. Agreed. She still made the choice to be unfaithful, Rachel said firmly. But it does paint a clearer picture of how this all unfolded. You deserve to know everything. I leaned back in my seat, the gravity of the situation settling heavily on my shoulders. I need to confront her again. I want her to understand the impact of her choices, not just on me but on her own life. She needs to realize that she's been a pawn in Mike's game. Rachel looked at me thoughtfully. That's a good approach. But you need to be careful. She's vulnerable right now, and you want to ensure that your confrontation leads to clarity, not more chaos. Clarity, right. I want her to see that the fantasy she's been chasing is just that, a fantasy. As we finished discussing the legal aspects of my divorce, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I needed to confront Sarah not only to seek justice for myself but also to unravel the tangled web of manipulation that had ensnared her. Later that evening, I drove to Sarah's parents' house, knowing she would be there, likely avoiding me and trying to gather her thoughts. As I approached the door, my heart raced with anticipation and dread. I knocked firmly, the sound reverberating in the quiet night. Sarah opened the door, her eyes widening in surprise. "James, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you." "Now," I said, my voice steady but firm. I stepped past her into the living room, where the atmosphere felt heavy with unspoken tension. "James, please. I don't think I can handle another fight," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not here to fight," I replied, turning to face her. "I'm here to make you see the truth of what you've done." "Truth?" she echoed, confusion flickering across her face. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. "I know about Mike. I know how he manipulated you and preyed on your insecurities." Her eyes widened in shock, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of realization. "How do you know that?" "I have sources, Sarah. I'm not going to let this slide without understanding the full picture. You were led astray, yes, but you still made the choice to betray me." I paused, watching her reactions closely. "You need to own that." I didn't realize it at the time," she said, her voice shaking. "He made me feel special when I was questioning everything in my life, including us. And you chose to lean into that, rather than come to me?" I pressed, my frustration bubbling to the surface. "I deserved better than that. We could have worked through it together." "I know," she cried, her voice breaking. "I thought I could find something missing in our marriage, something I thought I lost, and Mike made me feel alive again." "Alive? So you thought running to him was the solution? You know now that it was a lie, right? That he was playing you?" I said, leaning closer. "He doesn't care about you the way I do. You were just a game to him." Tears streamed down her face, and she looked away, guilt etched in every feature. "I was foolish. I see that now. But I didn't think." "You didn't think at all," I interrupted, my voice rising again. "You let someone else's attention dictate your actions, and it has consequences. You're going to face those consequences, and so is he." She fell silent, the weight of my words hanging in the air between us. I could see her grappling with the truth, the reality of what she had done. "James," she said finally, her voice softening. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I thought I could have both. I didn't realize how deep this would cut." "I need you to understand that running away is not the answer," I said, my voice steadying. "You have to confront the mess you've made, both with me and within yourself. If you want to move forward, it has to start with honesty and accountability." She nodded, a flicker of hope returning to her eyes. "I want to make things right, James. I really do." "Then let's start with the truth. No more lies, no more excuses. It's time to face what you've done, and I'll be right here to see it through." As the evening wore on, we began to unravel the truth together, peeling back the layers of deceit and manipulation that had clouded our relationship. It was painful, raw, and filled with uncertainty, but for the first time, it felt like we were beginning to understand the deeper issues that had led us to this point. And though I knew the road ahead would be rocky, I felt a flicker of hope that perhaps, in facing the truth, we could find a way to navigate the shattered pieces of our lives.